Good morning, everyone. I already see the first comment in the Q&A box. Welcome. We are going to get started right at 10 o'clock, so just bear with us for the next roughly minute. I see a few of you are starting to put in the Q&A box where you are joining us from. Hello, Plainview third graders, welcome. MCW fourth grade, good morning, Central Elementary third graders, Dover Eyota distance learners, awesome, thanks for joining us. If you want to put in, if you're viewing through Zoom, feel free to put where you're joining us from in the Q&A box. If you are watching on YouTube, there should be a comment section. You can put some comments in there. So Hutchinson, preschool and kindergarten, welcome. Let's see who else is here. Trinity Lutheran in St. Francis, Hawthorne third grade in Albert Lee, Oak Crest in Belle Plaine, Fisher School, the high school veterinary science class, excellent. Homecraft in Duluth, second graders, welcome. We are excited to see you. All right, according to my watch, it is 10 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Good morning, my name is Sue Knott, and I am an education specialist with the Minnesota Agriculture in the Classroom program. We are excited to be partnering with the Midwest Dairy to host 5 virtual field trips during October. So today is October 1st. It is the kickoff of National Farm to School Month. So we are celebrating the connections, farmers providing food to schools that are used in our nutrition program. So we consider these farmers and your school nutrition staff as heroes, and we want to recognize them and give you a little glimpse in what these farmers are doing every single day. So as I mentioned, if you're viewing on Zoom, you can put any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we will try to ask some of those to our farmer today. And if you're viewing on YouTube, there should be a comment section where you can put questions in there and let us know where you're joining. So I would like to introduce Jessica Desens. She is on her farm near Eyota, Minnesota, and I know there are some Dover Eyota classes joining us, so a huge shout out to them. And she's going to tell us about her farm and the animals that they raise there and how they are used for really healthy protein sources for us to eat. So welcome, Jessica. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about Goldenrust Farm?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Desens. My husband, Peter, and I own and run Goldenrust Farms. We run a total of about 150 acres. We raise beef cattle, we raise pigs, feeder pigs for pork, and we also raise sheep for lamb, and we also have a few chickens that my kids raise for eggs. I actually graduated from Dover Eyota, and we have 3 kids. Matthew, who's in 3rd grade, Samantha in 1st grade, and Tori is in preschool. They and they actually all go to Dover Eyota. So this is where we live and farm. Peter and I have always wanted to farm. We live here and we farm here because we love it. I am actually the 5th generation in my family to farm in this area. My brother actually farms a couple miles east of here on the original home farm. And my favorite part about farming is getting to raise our kids here and teach other kids and families about where their food comes from and see the whole process, bringing families and farming a little bit closer to your food tastes a little bit different when you know where it comes from, and like when you are just the same as if you grew a garden and you knew where it came from. So with that, I will show you our stars of the show. These are our cows. We have 13 cows, 2 heifers, and currently we have 12 beef calves total. it might be 13. There was one born this week, 13, since I updated this. We have half of them are born in the spring in about April. The other half are born in the fall, so September to early October. And it actually takes 3 full years to get from start to your plate for beef cattle. So what we're looking at here, these are the cows and the calves. Some of the larger calves you'll notice, like the ones in the front, those are some of the ones that were born in the spring. Those we will bring up here, and they will get weaned here in about a month. And otherwise the rest of the summer they spend on pasture directly with their moms, the cows. And then after they've had a round of shots and we go through everybody, we bring them up to the lot and run them through a chute, and we check everybody over, make sure everyone's healthy. They get their vaccinations for the year, just kind of like a doctor checkup, just like you would at the doctor. Then we will wean the calves from the cows because they are at that stage that they can be weaned from their mothers, and we practice fence line weeding so they actually get to see each other. And for the first little while, it's easier on everyone. But this is where they spend the first part of their days. We practice rotational grazing, so they will be in a new paddock every couple of days. That helps keep the grass at an optimal level so they're not getting it too short, which helps the cows get the most nutrition out of the grass, and it also helps the land and the grass so that it doesn't get too short and we don't run into things like erosion, and keeps our land as healthy as it possibly can be. After the crops are harvested, like the corn, the cows actually will graze on the corn stalks in the cornfields until the snow is too deep, and they will be up in the lot then too until the snow melts and they go back out to pasture again with their new sets of calves. So right now you'll see that we are supplementing with some bales of hay. That's so that the grass doesn't get too short. We'll do that this time of year and sometimes in the early spring when the grass just kind of needs a chance to catch up. And speaking of the pastures, if we span over here, I can kind of show you that when we first moved here, our pasture is actually, this was a clear-cut forest, so it wasn't really meant to be an open field, and it never had been reseeded. So that's one of the things that we have done, is we've been working on reseeding and getting some improved varieties of grasses, which helps with erosion control, helps take care of the soils. It's better for the cattle, keeps out invasive species. We also have planted nearly 100 trees on our property since we've been here. So we've kind of found that if you take care of the land, that it definitely takes care of you. So why don't we walk up to the barn and I can show you the steers and what happens once they're weaned, the feeder calves.
Jessica, as we're walking, someone asked the question, what is a paddock? You use that term. Could you define the paddock?
Yeah, a paddock is one of the small sections of pasture. Ideally, you will have 31 of them. So you will have one for every day of the month. So that square of pasture, if you picture it almost like a wheel, gets an entire month of rest before it has animals on it again. So right now we have about 10 to 15, but building fences and all that takes time, and we'll use temporary fences to move them from one section to the other, versus just, because otherwise what happens is that if you give them the entire pasture as a free-for-all, they'll kind of pick and choose. Just like if you laid out a whole table, you're gonna pick, the chips first and the junk food first and the dessert first, and then you're not gonna eat a balanced and a good variety like you should, and it's not good for the grass, and it's not optimal for the cattle either. So then here, up here, this is where the feeder cattle will go. The fall feeders will spend the summer out on the pasture as well, taking advantage of the good grass, and it's good for their feet and just something different. You'll notice you're not seeing things here. This is a dairy steer that's coming up here. those are actually one of my kids' 4-H projects. That was the one from this year. Last year, my son had a heifer calf that he showed at the fair, and then it becomes a part of the herd. So these ones actually the age that they're at, they would be ready to finish about next fall. This orange thing here, that is full of the feed that the steers feed on, as well as the roughage, the hay that they eat. It's filled with what's called an acre ration. We work with a nutritionist to develop rations for the cows and the feeders and the steers. This happens to be the steers, so it's a blend of corn and protein, and it's got all of their vitamins and minerals all in here. And then they supplement with the hay, which is kind of like a salad. So this is what they eat to get the best growth and protein and muscle growth for their stage at life that they're at. The cows in the winter, besides eating grass, in the winter they'll eat corn just like this, and they actually are this is like a candy to them. They love it, because if I shake the bucket, they all come running. And then they also will get corn silage. Corn silage, basically what this is it's the corn cobs, the entire corn plant chopped up into a feed. This we chopped in early September. So that is what they will all eat. These smaller steers here, these are our fall calvers. So these will be ready for market in about May. The ones in the back there are going next week. So those ones are fully grown. So that's about the whole process. Does
We
anyone
have a
have any
couple
questions?
questions, Jessica. Yeah, we do. So Holly and Ted want to know what crops you have planted this year. And then Reese would like to know, besides the cattle, what other animals do you have?
So we have our crops that we have planted this year is we have 40 acres of corn, and we use the corn for the corns, just like you would see the corns on the cob, but we also will use it for the shelled corn for feed. We'll use it for the corn silage, like I showed you here, for the feed. And then we will also use it for bedding. That's what the steers in the back are laying on. They'll actually get a fresh bale once it dries out this afternoon. So we get and then we also will use it as pasture for later when it's time to move the cows there. So we planted that. We also have hay ground, a couple different fields of hay, a alfalfa grass mix, as well as a straight grass mix hay. And the other cool thing that we also raise is oatlage. And oatlage is also another feed that we do. And it is basically that we raise it on there's a farmer near here that he raises peas for canning crops for Lakeside and Plainview. And then we come in after the peas are done in about June, and we plant oats. And then we harvest the oats right before they would be ready to bloom out and have the seeds, and we cut it, and it makes oatlage, which is a feed, and you wrap it up and it ferments, and it almost has a little bit of a sweet taste to it. The cattle and the sheep really like it. So if Peter turns the camera around, that there's a whole straight tube, those tubes over there, that big white line, that is the oatlage bales. So those are all the crops that we have grown. All of our crops that we grow are meant to be feed for the cattle. But partnerships like that are pretty cool, because we get them when their feeder is 14 days old, and then we will raise them up. It takes about 6 months to get a pig from feeder size to a fully grown pig that's ready for market, which is pretty amazing. So, and then we also have sheep, which if we happen the Kubota, I will take you to the sheep, and of course a barn cat.
So as you're writing, Jessica, I have a few more questions that people have asked. So first
Sure.
of all, Lisa would like to know if you have names for your cows.
We do not have names for most of the cows. There's that have some names, and it's mostly because one of our kids named the cattle. But mostly they will all have an ear tag, and that's how they're identified. So their ear tag will have the first number is the year that they were born. So, for example, if it had an 8, it was born in 2018, and then it will have a second number like 01. So 01 would be the number, the number in sequential that it was born. So if it was 01, it would have been the first heifer or the first calf born that year. But otherwise, they don't really have, and then that's how we identify them to make sure that we know who goes with which cow and keep track of all their shot records and all this, just the same as the sheep, that they'll all have numbers identifying them, and then we keep accurate records on, we'll measure their growth and make notes, also make notes on their vaccinations and who their mom is, and keep track of all the things that are important to make sure that they're growing healthy. So these behind us, these are our lambs. They were born in May. Sheep grow really fast. As you can see, these are probably weigh between, I'd say 60 and 80 pounds right now. They'll be fully grown and ready for market in December. And we raise them sheep are mostly raised for their meat. So we raise them for meat to eat. We do shear them for their wool, but wool is mostly a byproduct. Farmers actually don't get a whole lot of money for the wool. It probably costs us just as much to shear them as it does to, or as the money we will get for the wool. So these are the lambs. They've been weaned, so that's why we have them up in the lot here, so that we can keep a nice close eye on them. In the feeder there, that is their grass hay. Sheep eat mostly a grass hay. These are the lambs, and then we will supplement with a corn protein mix that, again, we will talk with a nutritionist about making sure that they are getting their optimal feed for their growth stage based on their weight. You guys can see that. And they very much love the corn. As you can see, they're trying to jump through. Also with the sheep, we have the ewes that are right across here. So we can walk over there and take a peek at the ewes. The ewes are the mothers, and each ewe will have between 1 and 3 lambs per year. We also have a couple of unique animals over here. We have Red, who is, there he is. Red is our llama. And his main job is to be a guard for the sheep. So he protects the sheep, makes sure that, as you can see, his ears are on alert because our dog is pretty close. That's an instinct that we don't have to teach him that. He does that all on his own. This summer there was a pack of coyotes in a field that we could actually hear them, and he gathered all of the sheep, even though they're out on pasture, up near the barn and got them in the barn, and he stood watch, and he didn't sleep all night long. He stood there and watched to make sure everyone was safe. When the lambs are born, he stands or lays down by the lambs and he almost babysits. It's pretty cute. And then can you see over here, if she's walking away, we also have a hair sheep. That was a gift from to our son. That is his sheep, and a hair sheep is pretty cool because they actually, instead of having wool, they have hair, almost like a horse. So those are kind of our fun, unique ones. But we love the sheep. We have sheep for a couple different reasons. They eat different things than the cattle do on pasture, so they will eat some of the invasive species like the buckthorn and the thistles. They will naturally graze on those. We also like them because they're smaller and they're naturally more docile, so we can get our kids more involved, and it's a lot easier to take them to show people or to, just get younger people involved a little bit more. We can't do that quite as much with the cattle because they're a larger animal, and it's just kind of the way that it is. But we really love all our animals. The fun fact about kids and getting involved is today at Dover Eyota Schools, they are having our hot dogs from our beef for lunch today. And Peter and I sat down and did the math, and out of one steer, we'll make approximately 3,500 hot dogs. So today they're feeding about 1,000 students, so 3.5 days worth of school lunches can be provided by one steer. I also happen to know that today it will take 16 watermelons the size of a basketball to do Dover Eyota School lunch. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's a win-win for everybody, the farm to school things, because we are able to provide a healthy, high quality protein source for the school. We use a nutritionist that lives in the community, and we buy, if we don't grow all of our own feed, we would purchase it from other local area farmers or hire them to do our different work for us, like helping us chop our hay. We usually hire some help for that, and round and round it goes. It's kind of a win-win for everybody.
So Jessica, we did have a couple questions about the meat. So what do you do with the meat from the beef cattle as well as the lamb? So I know that you just said that you provide it to the Dover Eyota Schools, but where else does it go? And how does it taste different? How does beef taste different than lamb? People are wondering. And then after that, Peyton, a first grader, wants to know, what is your biggest tractor?
Well, let's see, the meat goes to Dover Eyota Schools does hot dogs and hamburgers. This year, Wabasha Kellogg Schools will do hamburgers. We also will take the meat to butcher, and we have a small farm store that we will be at the Plainview Farmers Market or sell it directly from our farm. Lamb has a little bit, it's a different taste than beef. I would say it almost has a little bit of a different, how would you describe it? It's leaner. Well, it's naturally leaner, and it just in general has a different flavor. If you've never tried it, I would highly recommend it. Our favorite way to have lamb is in a lamb brat, because it has all the spices, and usually a brat is something pretty familiar as people how to cook, so you don't have to learn a new way how to cook. Those are always pretty popular. Hi, Red. And our biggest tractor, we actually only own one tractor. We have a fairly small farm, so if we have larger things that we need equipment, we actually only own the one loader tractor. And Peter, it's a Case IH 895. I had 72 horsepower, Peyton.
Red the llama has been at the heart of a couple questions too. Could you tell us how old he is, and also does he spit?
So Red is 1.5 years old. He actually was a Christmas present about 1.5 years ago. He's a male for our kids. So he is halter broke, and I have never seen him spit. Never, ever. If there was one time that when we were loading him on a trailer to take him to a event, that he did whinny because we were taking him away from the sheep, and he was upset that we were taking him away from his ladies. But otherwise, I have never seen him spit. They more often, if they are threatened, they will show their teeth. They actually have teeth on the sides here called biting teeth, and then they also will paw and stomp. It's a lot more prevalent if there was another dog here, is usually the most common time that you would see it, or there was some sort of threatening species that is threatening the lambs. He is used to our dog. He wasn't at first, but that was something that they both kind of had to learn to stay away from each other, similar to how a cat and a dog just kind of have to agree to peacefully live together.
So Ricky would like to know, how did you get started raising cattle and sheep?
So we started in 4-H, and I started in 4-H, and I grew up on a farm, and so did Peter. But when we started here, we purchased our land and had the willingness for someone like my dad helped us, and my dad and Peter's parents helped us, buy some cattle, and we were always answering our questions. And when I was in, high school and younger, I always thought that you had to have this big, thousands of acres to be a farm and to make a big difference. And so that was the question I always asked Dad, uh, how many cattle, or how many acres, or how many plants do you have to have in order to be called a real farmer? And he always would say one. It only takes one to make a difference. And that's why I did all the math to figure out how many hot dogs you can get from just one steer. So it just starts one at a time, and we start small like this, and a little at a time. And when we have some extra money that we've saved, then pretty soon I always joke that on the top of my Christmas list is pipe gates, because gates they're always kind of a luxury when you're first starting off and you're a smaller farm. But it only takes one to make a difference. So that's always really encouraging to me. And just the same as the nutritionist, we've got our friend Carl here helping us out, just in case someone decides to be a troublemaker while we're doing this. And he always says that they're always more than happy to talk to people that have just a few head to people that have 5,000 heads. So everybody here works together to make a difference.
So these next couple questions go along with that, I think. What do you like best about farming and being a farmer? And what is your favorite time of year on your farm?
See, my favorite time of year is the fall, because the fall is the time of year that you see all of your hard work pay off. I can, finally see that the lambs are getting bigger, and the fall is when we will work cattle. So the cattle that have been in the pasture, and with beef cattle, it's a little bit different than like with dairy cattle, is that I don't actually ever usually get to get up close until the fall and touch the calves very often, because they're with their mothers, and you get to see them from a distance, but you get to see them all up close. And that's also usually when something is going into the locker to market. So you get to have that steak or that first hamburger, and your crops that you planted for the year are growing up. There's just so many things that are going on, and it's just kind of that finally, like, you get to see all your hard work finally pay off. And one of my favorite, my other favorite things about farming is raising our kids here and teaching other kids in the community when you get to see somebody learn about the way that food is grown, and what calves look like, and what like a sheep actually looks like, and how you take care of them, and how much thought and things goes into it, and just sharing all of that with the community. That's hands down my favorite part, is is sharing it with my kids. This year, the hair sheep, Matthew's hair sheep, had lambs for the first time, and that's an experience that it's cool to see it for yourself, but it's even cooler to see someone get to see it and appreciate it for the first time. Something that they raised had a lamb. I don't know, it's pretty cool.
I think that's pretty cool too. So you mentioned this a little bit ago, Jessica, when you were talking about the paddocks, but we know that farmers the soil and water are really important to the environment and to growing animals and plants. How do farmers take care of the natural resources like soil and water?
Well, farmers work really hard to take care of the environment, because that's what helps them provide their livelihood, taking care of it. And the better that you take care of your land, the better that the better that it provides for you. So things like the rotational grazing and improving grasses, helping manage invasive species, also crop rotations and things like cover crops. And usually cover crops, you can find a win-win that it'll provide help with erosion, and it also will sometimes you can get or provide feed off of it. Other things is that there's also nutrient management, and using the manure in the proper ways to fertilize the fields, and kind of everything all works together. There's also working with the local government agencies. I know my brother just enrolled in a water quality thing that they're he's getting extra help and extra knowledge from the scientists and the different natural resource people on improving some of the different streams and stuff, and doing everything that he can. No-till drilling is another fairly new thing. These are all practices that we use, but and mostly just being out there and noticing if there's something that isn't quite right and doing your best with the resources that you have to take care of the earth and make the world a better place.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I can see your red just peering over your shoulder like he's in protection mode right now. So a huge thank you to you, Jessica. And I know your husband, Peter, has been our cameraman, and just all of the animals and everything that you're able to show us on our farm. I think it's awesome. And I am jealous of those students in the Dover Eyota schools who will get to eat those hot dogs today. So thank you all the viewers who tuned in, and thank you for sharing your questions. We couldn't ask Jessica all of them, but Goldenrust Farm does have a website, so you can check it out there. Their email address is listed. So if you have questions, you can send them that direction, or otherwise check with Minnesota Ag in the Classroom. We have a website, mn.agclassroom.org, where you can reach out to us, and we'd love to connect with you. So once again, thanks, Jessica. Thank you, Goldenrust Farm. Thank you to Midwest Dairy and the 6,000 dairy farm families they represent in our Midwestern region. We thank the teachers and other people who took time out of their classroom activities to join us, and we hope that you want to visit some more farms virtually. We have 4 additional field trips coming up this October. So our next one is going to be next Thursday, October 8th, where you're going to travel to, yeah, thanks, Jessica. We're going to travel to Deer Lake Apple Orchard near Buffalo, Minnesota. So same time, 10 o'clock next Thursday. One more piece I want to let you guys know, kindergarten through 6th grade teachers, our Ag Mag magazines are getting sent out. You should receive them next week if you are a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, we have magazines for kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then also a magazine that's for 5th and 6th grade. You can subscribe to those for free, request however many magazines you'd like at mn.agclassroom.org. And we also have a fun student-focused website that that has the content from these magazines online. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us. This will be recorded, our virtual field trip, and it can be accessed on our Minnesota Ag in the Classroom YouTube site if you want to watch this recording at a later date. So I'm going to say goodbye, and until next Thursday, October 8th, Deer Lake Apple Orchard. Hope to